Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to talk about the second law of motion, which is one of the fundamental laws of physics. The second law of motion, also known as Newton's second law, states that the force applied to an object is directly proportional to its mass and acceleration. To put it simply, the greater the force applied to an object, the greater its acceleration will be. Let me give you an example to help you understand this better. Imagine you're trying to push a shopping cart filled with groceries across a parking lot. The harder you push the cart, the faster it will move. However, if the cart is really heavy, you'll need to apply a greater force to make it move at the same speed as a lighter cart. Now, let's break this down a little further. The second law of motion is represented by the formula F equals ma, where F stands for force, m stands for mass, and a stands for acceleration. So, if you apply a force of 10 newtons to an object with a mass of 2 kilograms, it will accelerate at a rate of 5 meters per second squared. 10 n, 2 kilograms equals 5 meters per square second. The second law of motion is important because it helps us understand how objects move and why they move the way they do. It also helps us make predictions about how objects will behave in certain situations. Let's talk about some real-world examples of the second law of motion in action. When a car accelerates, the engine applies a force to the wheels, which then applies a force to the road. The road then applies an equal and opposite force to the wheels, which causes the car to move forward. The greater the force applied by the engine, the faster the car will accelerate. Another example is when you throw a ball. When you apply a force to the ball, it accelerates in the direction of the force. The mass of the ball affects how much force is needed to make it move at a certain speed. A heavier ball will require more force to throw than a lighter ball. Now, let's talk about some misconceptions about the second law of motion. One common misconception is that the second law of motion only applies to objects in motion. However, the second law of motion applies to all objects, whether they're in motion or at rest. It's the force applied to the object that determines its acceleration. Another misconception is that the second law of motion only applies on Earth. However, the second law of motion applies everywhere in the universe. Whether you're on Earth, the Moon, or in space, the second law of motion still applies. To summarize, the second law of motion states that the force applied to an object is directly proportional to its mass and acceleration. It helps us understand how objects move and why they move the way they do. It also helps us make predictions about how objects will behave in certain situations. I hope this video helped you understand the second law of motion a little better. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this.